I'd like to call to order the Lake Street Overlay District Review Team meeting for Tuesday, June 27, 2023. If we could have roll call, please.
Mr. Ron Hayes,
Here.
Mr. Chris Landry,
Here.
Mr. Anthony Barty,
Here.
Mr. Keith DeBrock,
Here.
and Mr. Kirk Smith.
Here.
Thank you, Christie. Before we get started, I would ask that you all please silence your cell phones. If you wish to speak on an item here tonight, we ask that you fill out one of these blue cards that you'll find at the front of the room, and you can turn it in to anyone here at the staff desk, at which I know there's a number of you have already done that. Okay, let's get started. All right, this is a 5-member review team. It will take a majority of those members present to grant or deny the request heard tonight. The meeting will be conducted with me reading the request from the agenda. If the applicant would like to speak, or if someone from the audience has comments related to the agenda item, please come to the microphone, state your name, address, and the nature of your request, all which I've already gone over that, and the cell phone, so yes. I'm sorry, Christy, I'm not reading your notes. I'm just doing my thing.
It's there if you need it.
Okay, we're gonna start with 4A. Take appropriate action on the following applications at 5676 Lake Street in Ward 3. It's a major alternative design request within the Lake Street Overlay District. Article 6, Lake Street Overlay District, Division 2, Section 26, 153 through 160 of the Parish Code of Ordinances to establish a non-permitted use, in this case being a communication tower 160 feet. The applicant is the Champagne Buznik, Post 2130 VFW, Inc. I entertain a motion to discuss.
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for discussion. If we would, we're going to have the applicant come up first. I think Mr. Ron Ormsby.
Mr. Chairman, or Ms. Landry, at this point, there are 2 people here to speak in favor of the request, and I think they had decided to have Jennifer New Orleans for the attorney for.
I thought this was the attorney, sir.
I don't believe so.
I misunderstood you.
Yeah.
Okay, if we could, Mr. Hornsby. Hornsby. If you could just hold on, we're going to have your attorney speak first.
And as he makes his way to the podium, we've divided some time up. I'll keep the time, and I'm sorry, your name again?
Patrick.
Patrick's going to reserve 2 minutes for rebuttal, so after the opposition speaks, he has 2 minutes after that, but I'll take time here.
Okay, we'll count on you, Sam.
Thank you.
If you could state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Patrick Willis, 201 St. Charles Avenue, Suite 3600, New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm with the firm of Baker Donaldson here on behalf of the applicant, Tillman Industries. I think as we communicated with the staff more recently, we've only recently been engaged and are actually here to respectfully request a deferral here on the matter. We recognize obviously the inconvenience to this committee and the folks here, so we would like to, obviously stay here. The comments from the public here and be in a better position to respond to those at a later date. But we're just not, as the attorney, we're not in a position to prepare anything beyond the application. So we just respectfully request the deferral. And other than that, I'm going to reserve the remaining 2 minutes of the time, and will otherwise defer to Mr. Hornsby on the rest, or the.
Okay, that's all you had. Okay, Mr. Ormsby, if you would state your name and address for the record, please.
Ronald Ormsby, 4207 West Javon, 70605. I am here in the affirmative for the tower because we need the revenue. The VFW has very few members, and last year we had to borrow $6,000 from the Women's Auxiliary just to cover the insurance on the building. I don't see what this gentleman is, why he's objecting to it. I mean, he's running a commercial business on the lot next door.
Okay, sir, you need to keep your comments about what's before us tonight, and that's putting the tower on the property. We're not here to talk about the neighbors.
Well, he's the guy distributing the paperwork.
Okay, you need to tell us why we should allow this use of
Because
the
we need the
property.
revenue.
Is that all you have for us, sir?
I think there's in question the height of the tower. There's no flooding in that area. I don't see any maintenance on a brand-new tower, and if the guy wants it, he can build his own fence, any color he wants. Anything, questions for me?
Does the panel have any questions for Mr. Ormsby? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Landry?
Okay, Mr. Crane?
I didn't know if you want to hear from the staff on our staff recommendation
Sure,
or anything. If
absolutely.
you'd like for Ms. Tunn to give that before y'all deliberate on other matters.
Sure.
So if you'd like for her to do that.
You've already explained what the request was, so I'll just go into our recommendation and the conditions that we
All right.
placed on the project.
Hey, thank you. I'm sorry, Ms. Tunn, 1 second.
Well, if you can talk, we want to. Can I fill out a card? Go fill out one? Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Gabb. Ms. Tunn, please continue.
Because the proposed development is not allowed within the Lake Street Overlay District, the staff recommends the request be denied. Should the team grant the request, the staff recommends the following conditions: that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development, and that the development must be in accordance with Section 26-81 Communication Towers of the Parish Code of Ordinances.
Thank you, Ms. Tunn. Anything else, Mr. Crane? All right, thank you.
I got a question.
Absolutely. Mr. Barty?
Mr. Crane,
Yes, sir.
the gentleman just alluded to something about a fence.
Yes, sir.
Is the property supposed to have a fence? Are they in compliance with everything that the district requires?
No, sir, they're not in compliance at this point. They do require, whenever the VFW was approved, this was back in 2015 or so? Yeah, 2015. There was a condition placed on it that a fence had to be erected. And since then, the fence is, after the hurricane, the fence was damaged, and it has not been placed or put back up yet. So we currently have sent a certified letter to the property owner to put that fence back up. So
When was that letter sent?
last week?
Oh,
Last
okay.
week.
They did receive that letter.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just as a point of clarity, I want to make sure from some of the conversations I had with folks regarding this, the application does state 160 feet, the height of the tower, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Are there any other questions before we move on? Okay, we have Ms. Jenna Grinder. Please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Jenna Griner. I reside at 5626 Lake Street, directly next door to the VFW. I'd like to first state respectfully that my husband and I understand that the VFW needs revenue. We fully support the mission of the VFW. We believe it's important for the community, it's important for the veterans in the area, and we have actually reached out privately to members of the staff to volunteer our own efforts to connect them with younger veterans in the community and to help them generate ideas for them to generate more revenue that don't include a 160-foot tower that's already against the ordinances of the special district. So we've established that it's against the ordinances of the district. It's also against the very purpose and intent of the Lake Area Special A Overlay District. The purpose and intent, section 26-153 states, it's created for the purpose of, among other things, improving the neighborhood characteristics of the area, improving the overall quality of the surrounding community. The standards contained herein will ensure that new developments are compatible and enhance the appearance of the surrounding area. A 160-foot communication tower is in direct violation of the purpose and intent of this district. This was formed with a plan, and the regulations are put in place to protect the vision of the plan for this area. The overwhelming land use surrounding this site is residential. Commercial buildings that do exist are capped at 35 feet in height. Allowing this use is completely incongruent and incompatible with the neighborhood and area characteristics and the current land use of the entire area. We recently found out that the plan for this tower has been in the works for 2 years. As the owner of the adjacent 2 properties directly to the north of the VFW, we had no idea. We were never contacted. We were never told anything. We simply drove by and noticed the public hearing notice out front. We had to do all the legwork ourselves to find out the information on this. I mean, we've known about this for less than 2 weeks. This has been in the works for 2 years. Why could they not inform the community of their plans? Why couldn't they ask us our concerns and then take that to heart? If we have concerns about drainage, they could plan to address that. It feels like they're operating in bad faith. Why keep this a secret for so long? But anyway, I'd like to show you a picture of my beautiful backyard. And that's where the tower's gonna go. I'll let the others have the remainder of my time.
All right, thank you, Ms. Griner. Can we ask her a question? Sure, absolutely. No refrain, there's no clapping, there's no booing, there's no, please don't do that.
Yes. Ms. Griner, when did y'all move into your current home?
Ma'am, please come back to the podium. There may be other questions. Mr. Hayes, go ahead.
Yes.
April or early May? 2021.
And were you led to believe that there were going to be any changes, modifications, any?
Absolutely not.
Okay. And you found this out?
By my husband driving by after picking our kids up from daycare and noticing the bright orange sign out front. Then I called planning and zoning. He went up in person, and that's the only way we were able to receive copies of the plan, the lack of information that they did provide us with, but we were never told, we were never asked. And as we walked and talked to a lot of our neighbors, none of them were either.
So you've known about this roughly, what, 2 weeks?
Less than, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Griner? Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have James Hyatt.
We have 3 more, Mr. Hyatt and 2 other speakers.
That's correct.
It'll be 2 minutes apiece.
2 minutes each.
2 minutes, timing.
Okay, Mr. Hyatt, if you would, please state your name and address for the record, and you have 2 minutes.
Sure, my name is James Hyatt, and P.O. Box 7262 70606. Just like they were saying, I just found out about this about 3 days ago. My property is not adjacent to this, but there's a severe lack of communication happening here. And there's absolutely no need to have this tower placed where they're talking about placing it. I understand the VFW needs revenue, and we definitely are in to support whatever ways we can to help them get the revenue they need to stay open. But to put a tower here permanently that will affect So many homeowners and people just driving by is not the way forward, I don't think. There needs to be alternative siting looked at. There needs to be something else. There is a large Entergy plant down even farther down Lake Street, the transmission place. 160-foot tower. I've seen this go up in University, Mr. Hayes, right by my friend's house, and that's outside of this scope. But there was a large movement to stop that, and it didn't happen, and now that tower's there, right there by Magny Stadium. Nobody should have to put up with this, especially if you've lived there for years and years. Speak about flooding. People live in that area were flooded. What happens with the backup batteries, or are they going to be on diesel generators? Is this going to affect the way people can sleep at night? All for what? For the profit of some company in New York City and a little bit of revenue for the VFW? I just don't think that the zoning and planning, y'all should allow this in this district. And I think that it's pretty clear by the people who showed up here that even if there was even more notice, this entire room would be packed, because nobody is asking for an eyesore in their backyard for the profit of somebody elsewhere that doesn't benefit the community at all. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hyde. Is there any questions from the panel for Mr. Hyde? Thank you. Okay, sir, you have to come to order. This isn't a baseball game. We only speak from the podium. We do not speak from the audience. Next, we have Carrie McKee. Mr. McKee, if you would, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Kerry McKee. My address is 2291 West Gabriel Square in Moss Bluff. However, I grew up 100 yards from the proposed location, and the location would be directly out of my parents' dining room window, 100 yards from their dining room window. I've been dabbling in real estate for the last 12 years. I have purchased adjudicated property from this podium. I have purchased tax sale property for the last 12 years. In that time, I have tried to rezone different properties from R1 to R2 or from R2 to multifamily, whatever the case may be. And the 3 different times that I've come to the offices of the Planning and Zoning Board and I've sat down and spoken to somebody at a desk, every single time I am told this board does not spot zone. Every single time I am told this board does not spot zone. And I ask, well, what do I do? And they say, well, you can put your money forward, you can speak at the board meeting, you can have your time at the podium, the staff will recommend a denial, and the board most likely will deny it because the board does not spot zone. And that is what this is a spot zone. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Thank you. Last, we have Eric Greiner. Please state your name and address for the record.
Eric Greiner, 5626 Lake Street. I'm going to try to not touch on anything else that anybody else has talked about so far, just so we can maximize our time. Basically, what I'd like to touch on first is, like my wife said, we purchased that whole section north of there. It's about 3.8 acres about 2 years ago, and I am mainly concerned with the loss of value to my property with putting that giant tower at the back of their property. I've got with me 9 different studies and papers peer-reviewed from different locations, different economic groups, different locations around the country that show that there is a impact to property values up to a half mile around where that tower is going to be built. Now, with that being said, I did spend all weekend walking and going to almost every house, and I talked to several hundred people over the weekend. That's the flyer that he was talking about. It basically summarized my positions and then summarized what's on this packet to make sure that people were informed. And then, as my wife stated, I'd say 95% of people had no idea. You know, no one knew this was happening. We were blindsided by it. So we just kind of took it upon ourselves to champion the cause and make sure that this didn't happen. With that being said, you know, like I said about my wife and I, buying this property, we bought it as our forever home. We don't plan on moving. We got a huge chunk of property, South Lake Charles, great school districts, great grocery stores, great neighbors, great everything. I mean, even the VFW, we spend a lot of time talking with them and everything. Recently, we've become aware of the financial issues, and I have reached out personally and talked to several people over there, offered solutions, offered to connect them with younger veterans. As my wife said, her and I both spent quite a bit of time overseas working with veterans. We are attempting to, we're attempting to hook them up with younger groups to help alleviate their issues. So we're not just being confrontational, we're trying to help also. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Griner? All right, thank you, sir. Currently, we do, go ahead, Mr. Gabb.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know Ms. Bissoni is here, and she was in opposition but did not fill out a blue card, but asked if they could maybe raise hands for all those who are here in opposition. So she had that request to the board if they could raise hands or stand up.
Is that your request, sir?
Well, it was really from Robin, and so I know it wasn't made from the podium, but it was.
Yeah, we don't normally do
It
that.
saved us a speaker.
So the request is that they
Yeah,
raise a
everybody here is
raise
in
of hands
opposition.
if they're in opposition.
Correct. Just raise a hand.
Okay, let's
Show
go
of hands.
ahead. We'll do that. Okay, thank you.
And I didn't mean to hijack your meeting. The
It
rules
just-
here are very relaxed.
We don't do that at a police jury meeting. We don't
The
raise
rules are
hands.
relaxed here.
But it's fine.
I apologize.
Okay.
The only thing we have left in speakers would be the rebuttal from the applicant.
Okay.
2 minutes.
You can come on back up, sir.
Again, a sincere apologies. We're not in a position to present on this in particular. Obviously there are concerns that we would like to address and be in a position to address each and every comment, even, for anyone, I will say this individually, anyone who has not had an opportunity to speak at this meeting, I will stand outside. I'm happy to give you my card and my contact information, take additional questions, and be in a position to respond to each and every one of these concerns at a deferred meeting if it's granted. But again, we just respectfully request this this issue be deferred to a future date.
Okay, I do have a question for you, for myself and the panel, just to make sure. So why are you just now getting involved in this and asking for an extension or deferral?
Because my firm has only just been engaged to represent this client, and so we have not had an opportunity to engage with the application, engage with the applicant, engage with staff, and be in a position to properly stand before you, and I don't want to either mislead you or the public on anything. I'm just not in a position to.
And you're here representing the property owner, or you're here representing the communication company?
The communication company.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Tillman Industries, yes.
They may have understood that, but I wanted to be clear.
My apologies if I was unclear.
Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah, they're still turning in blue cards. That was, you're out of time, aren't you? You used to.
Oh, yeah, public comments over
Yes,
now. And
okay.
and right now, you don't really have a motion on the action
Correct.
to take.
There is no motion, so. And the applicant is, as the gentleman just stated, is asking you to defer for some period of time. So whatever motion,
I'll move that we don't defer.
okay, well, we don't need a
We
motion
don't
for
need a
that.
mo-
Yeah,
all right, okay.
if you don't choose to defer, I think we don't make a motion at all. We just need to take action on the application.
Right. At this point, it's either a motion.
Motion to deny.
Have a motion by Mr. Barty to deny.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hayes. Is there any further discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. We are now adjourned. I'd like to call to order the Calcasieu Parish Police Jury Nelson District Overlay Review Team Meeting for Tuesday, June 27th, 2023, at 6 p.m. we could have roll call.
Mr. Ron Hayes.
Here.
Mr. Chris Landry.
Here.
Mr. Anthony Barty.
Here.
Mr. Keith DeBrock.
Here.
And Mr. Kirk Smith.
Here.
Thank you, Ms. Christie. Okay, if, I would ask first off if you would please silence your cell phones. And if you wish to speak on this item here tonight, we ask that you fill out one of these blue cards you'll find at the front of the room, and you can turn it in to anyone here at the staff desk. Four A, take appropriate action on the following application, 1825 Easy Street in Ward 3, as a major alternative design request within the Nelson Road Overlay District, Article 6, Division 1, Section 26, 145 through 152 of the Parish Code of Ordinances. Number 1, to allow an additional wall sign, currently allowed 1 and they're requesting 2. Section 26-151, 6B. Number 2 is to deviate from the roof pitch requirement as a minimum of 6 foot on 12-foot pitch. Section 26-151, 8B. Number 2 and 3, to omit the location requirement of air conditioning compressors. Section 26-151, 8B. Number 7, the applicant is Sam East Construction, LLC. Okay, if we could, I guess we'll take those one at a time, would probably be because there's multiple requests within the one. Wouldn't that be the best thing to do, Mr. Crane?
You can.
And we'll hear from the applicant first.
Certainly, and if you'd like to hear from Ms. Tunn and
Yeah,
give
we'll-
her the staff
go ahead.
recommendations, that'd be
I'm
great.
sure she spent an hour or two on this. Throw it at us, tell us what you
I will
know.
just read the recommendation of the staff. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends the request be granted with the condition that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development.
Thank you. And that was on all requests?
All 3.
Okay. All right, if we could, is the applicant here? If you could state your name and address for the record?
Aaron Brown, 1733 Hollow Cove Lane.
Okay, if you could, go ahead.
So we're proposing to build a new construction Dollar General in this site.
And do you want to speak about what you're asking for? I mean, let's see, the first thing you want to, you need 2 wall signs
Yes, sir.
instead of 1?
Yes, sir. We'd like to be able to put wall signs on both sides, or both directions of the road.
And of
And
course,
we would also like to, I guess our roof line is going to be over 35 feet? Is that what you stated? I'm not looking at the paper, I'm sorry.
okay, well, I think the first thing is the 2 wall signs.
Yes, sir.
So I guess that is.
That is the 2 wall signs.
That is
yes.
basically what you're
That's
wanting to
exactly what
do
we're asking
instead
for.
of 1.
Yep.
And if I can say, this is a corner lot, and so what they've chosen in their prototype store is a corner entry store, and this is the typical plan that Dollar General has for these types of layouts, is 2 signs when you have a corner lot and a corner entry store, so.
That's correct.
Okay. Why don't we just handle one of the items at a time? Let's just handle the sign. Let's talk about that first and see what motion y'all want to make on just the sign.
So what I'm hearing is this is routine? This is
Yes, sir. This is routine throughout the country.
the alternative would be to have a sign just on one corner.
Yes, sir.
Does that happen very often when you got a corner lot?
No, sir.
Thank
Is there any issues with the lighting when you have two signs facing the lighting is taken care of?
Yeah, the lighting's taken care of. It stays within our lot.
Are there any other questions from the panel? Okay, we need a motion to either accept, to allow the sign or not.
I move we allow the sign.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Hayes and a second by Mr. Smith to allow the sign. Is there any discussion or objections? You sure are quiet, Mr. Barty.
I was just wondering. With just one sign, we wouldn't be able to tell that it was a Dollar General?
No.
Personally, I think I would know it was a Dollar
I think
General,
I
whether it
would.
was a sign or not.
But it's all good, it's all good.
Okay, so is there any further discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, okay. You have now two signs.
All right,
Let's go to the next item here. Now we're talking about roof pitch. All right. They are asking to deviate from the roof pitch requirement, which is a minimum of 6 on 12. And what are you wanting to do?
So this roof pitch would be an eighth of an inch per foot. This is essentially a flat roof.
That's a big deviation. Okay, do we have any questions or comments about the roof pitch? Not at all. Mr. Crane?
Just to further explain, what they're doing is they're putting a parapet type facade around the roof. They typically build these out of, it's a metal roof and a metal frame building, and again, this is the style, if you will, and the architecture of these types of facilities around the country, and so this is typical of their prototypical type store.
Do you know what it looks like when it's built in the woodlands?
I'm sure they have different requirements there.
That would be my guess as well.
I would guess the Woodlands looks similar to this one. This is a very upgraded store for typical from what we usually build.
Well, it doesn't appear to be metal. I'm assuming it's
Yeah, it's going to be a brick facade.
Going to be brick.
Yes, sir.
Is this how all the Dollar General stores are gonna look in the future?
No, sir. The standard is still just a metal building. And we can make adjustments based on
They put lipstick
the
on it.
municipality we're building in.
Any more questions about the roof pitch?
Mr. Barty wants to make a motion.
Okay.
Motion to approve the roof pitch.
Okay. I got a motion by Mr. Barty to approve the pitch and a second by Mr. Dubrock. Is there any further discussion? Any objections? Put me down as an objection. It doesn't matter, but go ahead.
You do have a blue card for the general comments. I know you're voting
yeah,
on
I'm
these.
sorry.
That's okay, I just wanted to.
My vice president over here.
I thought it was on that side.
No, we did have one. Just pause. Don't go too
Would you
far.
like me to sit down?
John Crookshank. If you would, state your name and address for the record. Said you have general comments.
My name's John Crookshank, 4219 Beauchamp Drive, Lake Charles.
You have the floor, sir. My apologies for not calling on you sooner.
Oh, no problem. We own the property at 1858 Easy Street, which is a cabinet shop basically directly across the street of the proposed Dollar General store. That property was built up, when we built our shop, we were 2 inches above Nelson Road when we built the shop. That was in 1990. When they improved Nelson Road, they built Nelson Road above our shop's foundation. So the property that Dollar General is being built on, or may be built on, is approximately 2.5 feet above our shop's grade now. It was filled in that much. So my question is, in this project, is there any provisions for water retainage and water runoff?
Yes, sir. Well, Mr. Crane can tell me what I'm incorrect on, but several years ago, the police jury passed a drainage ordinance, and to put it in layman terms, each project is responsible for their own water, so they can't put water on their neighbor, which there's also a state law that supports that. But yeah, however they have to get there, it has to be engineered, and on paper, they have to prove that they're not putting their water on somewhere else, and they have to retain it. I'm assuming on their plans, do they have, I mean, they have to address the water.
So under the ordinance, this property is under 2 acres of land, so there's an exemption waiver for having to provide on-site detention. They have to pay a fee in lieu of detention. However, you're right, they do have to engineer their plans so that it does not affect the neighboring property. As you can see, they're also adjacent to a drainage lateral, and so we require that they get a letter of no objection from the Gravity Drainage District.
From the drainage board.
Yes, sir.
And what's the size of the property?
It's less than 2 acres.
So it's under the 2.
It's under the 2 there, so they're eligible for that waiver for having to put in an on-site detention pond.
Okay.
They have to pay the fee, but they still,
Right.
they,
So much
they can
per-
either do it or they don't.
So much per square foot.
That's correct.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
There's no
Part of it?
provisions then for that piece of property not to come onto us, is what you're basically saying. They can run off whatever they want, or?
There is a provision that does not allow them to directly affect you drainage-wise. However, there is not a provision that requires them to put an on-site detention pond on the property.
Okay.
So they have to get there, we're just not telling them how. I mean, they can't put their water on Kim.
That's correct. They can put it in a drainage system, and then they can, if they get letters of no objection from the gravity drainage and they drain it to the roadside ditch or to this particular drainage area or drainage lateral, they're gonna have to get a letter of no objection that it doesn't affect that. And they also, you know, the adjacent property, there's provisions that don't allow them to do that. There's also state provisions, like you said, that you can't affect the natural drainage pattern. So,
That being said, the natural drainage has been affected because the property's been built up 2.5 feet. So, I mean, it's kind of like we're catching the water whether anybody wants to admit it or not. So,
well, again, if there's an effect on the natural drainage pattern, that's a state law. And so you have to file a civil
okay.
Yeah, I know, that's unfortunate.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crookshank.
I'm going to be the one that's actually building the store. I'll be the contractor who's building it, so I'll be happy to meet with you. I'll be happy to meet with Mr. Crookshank out on site. And anything we can do to help alleviate his problem, we'll
Right, and
be happy to do.
Sometimes on some of these projects, I know once they're completely done, it may be taken care of, but then sometimes kind of during that construction period, there can be some issues. So yeah, if you
Yep.
could minimize all that, I'm sure your neighbor would appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I'll be happy to share my contact information. I'm local out of Lake Charles, so anything you need.
Mr. Crane?
This is also, I'm sure it's in a stormwater area. And so they're gonna have to have, before they even get started, they're gonna have to get a stormwater permit from the police jury, from us, from the planning department. And that shows sort of where they're putting their silt fencing and the direction of flow of the drainage from the site during construction. So they have to show that, and then we issue a permit for that. They have to put their best management practices in place, for that, so. And keep them in place until the end of construction.
Okay. Mr. Barty?
I just want to reiterate the fact that what we're saying is this construction cannot have an adverse effect on anyone that's currently next to the property. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think we got past the roof pitch, and now we are,
You need a,
Vote.
you need a vote.
I'll make a motion that we accept the roof pitch.
Second.
I thought we already did.
I thought we did that. He
You
objected.
did. You had a motion, a second. Y'all just didn't vote on it.
Oh, okay.
There was an interruption. You let Mr. Crookshank speak.
They
in
showed us
between.
me being objected, I objected to it. Are there any other objections? Or you all like to do roll call votes?
No, that's,
It's not necessary? Okay. So we have, I'm the only objection, yes. Okay. Now we're going to move on to the air conditioner. And they want to admit the location requirement of the air conditioning compressors. I think currently, Mr. Crane, are they supposed to be hidden? They're either on
Well,
the side, the back, or?
yeah, under the ordinance, it requires that they put the air conditioning units in the rear of the property and then screen them either with some sort of fencing or landscape. And so what they're planning on doing is placing it on the roof. And so there's not a provision in the ordinance that allows that. And so that's the omission part of this. So we're hopefully going to change that in the law. We're going to recommend that that be changed because there are a lot of commercial buildings nowadays that the mechanical equipment is being placed on the roof. It just makes it for more efficient, air conditioning in the building. So whenever we adopted this years ago, that wasn't in there. So
It's
that's what
harder
they're.
for the copper thief to steal the copper
Yeah.
out of it as well when it's on the roof.
Yeah, and they've actually provided a drawing to us showing that the angle at which your viewpoint from the ground, you won't see these, because the parapet wall.
So it'll still be hidden.
That it'll still be.
It'll still be
And
hidden,
at
yes,
this
sir.
point, we have a flat roof.
That's correct.
So
There's the,
Diagram.
yeah, there's the diagram that shows that.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Barty to allow the air conditioners to be placed on the roof. I need a second. Now I have a second by Mr. Hayes. Is there any discussion? Is there any objections to the air conditioners being put on the roof? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you,
Is
gentlemen.
that all we had, Mr. Crane? I think, are we good? I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned.
Or overlay district review team meeting. Christie, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Ashton Richard.
Here.
Mr. Roger Markentile.
Here.
Mr. Tony Stelly.
Here.
Ms. Sharon Galicia.
Here.
And Mr. Kirk Smith.
Here. Thank you, ma'am. This is a 5-member review team. It will take a majority of those members present to grant or deny the request heard tonight. The meeting will be conducted with me reading the request from the agenda. If the applicant would like to speak, or if someone from the audience has comments related to the agenda item, please come to the microphone and state your name, address, and the nature of your request. All persons wishing to speak other than the applicants need to fill out a blue request to appear form located in the back of the room. The form must be given to a staff member prior to the reading of the agenda. And I would ask that you please silence all cell phones at this time. Item 4A, take appropriate action on the following application. 258 Highway 171 North in Ward 1. Major alternative design request with the Corridor Overlay District, Article 3, Zoning, Division 5, Section 26 through 49, and Article 6, Corridor Overlay District, Division 5, Section 26 and 165 through 174 of the Parish Code of Ordinances 1, to decrease the required number of parking spaces, required 56 spaces, requesting 35, Section 26-49B, minimum parking and loading requirements. 2, to omit the location requirement of all mechanical equipment, air conditioner units, Section 26-170. 5D, and 3, to deviate the landscape standards within the vehicular use area, section 26 through 171, 2, and the applicant is In-Laws LLC, OV 0523-0024. And I will entertain a motion to approve the request.
Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Markentile, and I need a second.
Second.
I have a second. Ms. Tunn.
So I won't repeat everything you just said, so I'll sum it up for you, if that's
I'm
okay.
supposed to, though, it was in yellow, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
So, as you are aware, the applicant is intending to construct a 5,562 square foot building for the new In-Laws Cajun Specialties. They will have dine-in and drive-through. Also, I wanted to let the team know, after meeting with the applicant regarding the landscape requirements, he has agreed to remove 2 Class B trees in the vehicular area and add 5 Class A trees throughout the property to enhance the overall development. Because minimal impacts are to be expected, the staff recommends the request be granted with the condition that the development adhere to the site plan on file with the Division of Planning and Development, provided that the director or designee may authorize adjustments to the site plan in light of technical or engineering considerations discovered during development.
Thank you, ma'am. Would the applicant come forward, please? State your name and address for the record.
Derek Kramer, 258-171, Highway 171.
Okay, do we have any questions for the applicant?
I do.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
35 parking spots is sufficient?
Yes, sir. So for what I understand, how we got to the 56 is really the size of the building, the square foot we have. Being that we produce 95% of our own product, boudin, sausage, process all our own stuff, literally well over half. I think only for it open to the public, it's only 1,600 square feet, probably comparable to like Wendy's, Taco Bell. The other portion is all for processing, being for us. So it's really not even open for the public. So as far as vehicle-wise, we actually have an extra 10 spaces that the church agreed for us to use just for employees as well. So really we have 45, but 35 for just customers.
Any other questions or discussion, sir?
My understanding, the air conditions are gonna be on the roof,
Yes, sir.
and they'll be hidden also.
Correct.
You
Yeah.
won't see them from the front.
You will not see them from the front at all. I did provide some views from the sides. You will see them barely, but being so far, we're utilizing all our property, so we set back quite a bit. So coming north and south, there's 2 buildings, a car wash, and there's a tire. You really don't see them anyways, and so it's kind of, to set these big old compressors and stuff in the back is utilizing perfect space that it's way more efficient to set them in the middle of the building, being right on top of where we're actually trying to cool. So that's why we're asking for that. It'd be really, really tight. I don't know.
Any other questions to the applicant? Okay, we will vote on these one at a time. The first item is to decrease the required number of parking spaces, required 56 spaces, requesting 35. I need a motion to...
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Markentile to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Richard. Is there any other discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, item 1 passes. Item 2 is to omit the location requirement of all mechanical equipment, air conditioning units. I need a motion to approve or deny.
Move on to.
I have a motion by Mr. Markentile to approve. I have a second by Ms. Alicia. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, item 2 passes. Item 3, to deviate the landscape standards within the vehicular
Move on,
use
3.
area. I have a motion by Mr. Markentile, need a second by Mr. Richard. Is there any other discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, that motion carries. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We're adjourned.